My first emotion was absolute shock. It's like, say what? She's where?
I felt really anxious, like whatever is going to happen to me, can it just hurry up and happen?
What happened? What have I done as a parent? And so there's this feelings of guilt.
Panic. That's what I felt like. Panic.
I had to see her. I had to know that she was okay.
You feel helpless because you don't know what you're doing.
The first morning I came into the court I was scared, lost, a whole room full of people, and I felt all by myself.
Going through the juvenile court can be confusing and even scary, but you can get through it successfully. This video will introduce you to the basic juvenile offender process. An offender matter is when a youth is being charged with a criminal offense. The juvenile court is a relatively new concept. The first juvenile court was established just over 100 years ago in Illinois. Prior to this, youth over the age of 7 were tried just like adults and sent to adult prisons. In 1967, the Supreme Court decided that youth are entitled to some key elements of a fair trial, including getting notified of the charges against them, a right to have a lawyer, the right against self-incrimination, and the right to confront and cross-examine witnesses. However, juvenile courts are still different from adult courts in that youth in juvenile court do not receive a trial by jury. Judges still decide the outcome of a case. This and the fact that the court system recognizes that the youth are still learning and can be rehabilitated is the reason why juvenile courts still exist. When learning about the juvenile offender process, it is helpful to know all the people involved. The youth will meet with their defense attorney at the court before their first hearing. The defense attorney's job is to make sure the youth receives a fair hearing in front of the judge.
My role is to represent the youth in court. Part of what I do in representing the youth is to help him or her through the process, what is going to happen, what each stage of the process means, and also to represent the youth in court. I give advice on what might be the best choices or help the youth make choices as far as whether to go to trial, whether to take a prosecutor's offer for a plea of guilty, or to enter into some other disposition that might be available to them.
The defense attorney is there for the child. That was very difficult for me because I'm the mom. I was there for my child.
I watched defense attorneys come up to parents, and the parents were yelling and screaming and just out of control, mostly because their emotions were gone. And the defense attorneys just kind of turned them off and left. And I said, I don't want him to walk away from me. I want him to talk to me. So I stayed calm.
I had a great relationship with my son's attorney and his PO, you know, and like I said, that goes with communication. That's a two-way street. I mean, of course, if you show no interest, they're not going to show no interest.
You don't want to have any tension with your attorney because, like, you know, that just doesn't make anything better. You might not have, you know, it might make them not do as well of a job if you're just being rude to them all the time or cussing at them or anything like that.
We do have to keep a confidential relationship with the youth because that is our client. The law requires it, and the rules of ethics that we have to follow require that. So we will, from time to time, be meeting alone with the youth. It's not to try to keep the parent out, to push the parent out, but it's because we need to have some time with the youth alone because that's required of us.
That communication between you and your attorney could be the best thing for you. It could be the difference between you winning or losing a case.
The prosecuting attorney represents the state and is there to represent the state's interest in making sure that community members are safe.
Now, as prosecutors, we don't work directly with parents of respondents, but we do work closely with defense attorneys, and defense attorneys will meet with us to address what they feel is the best needs of the respondents. Now, we need to look at a lot of different factors when we're assessing what is the best result of the case. We need to look at community safety, the needs of the victim, but we also look at the needs of the respondent, and that can be a lot of different things. We work with the defense attorney, and we sometimes try to come to a resolution.
The judge listens to the prosecuting and defense attorneys, as well as any witnesses, including a probation counselor, child welfare worker, or parent, and makes the final decision about whether the youth is guilty and what they will have to do before they can finish the juvenile justice process.
The judge's responsibility in juvenile court is very similar to the responsibility that a judge has in any court, and that is to apply the law and uphold the Constitution, and also looking out for the best interests of the youth.
The Intake Juvenile Probation Counselor, or JPC, will meet with the family and youth while the youth is still involved in the court process. The Intake JPC will gather information from the youth, family, and possibly outside agencies like the school to complete a brief assessment of the youth. This assessment will help the Intake JPC make recommendations about services the youth could benefit from to the judge. The Intake JPC is a good person to talk to if you have questions about the juvenile justice process.
Youth that are referred to the juvenile justice system are automatically assigned to a juvenile probation officer. It doesn't mean that the youth is on probation. It just means that you're assigned to somebody to help guide you through the system, answer any questions, be a resource for community services or referrals. It's my job to make a recommendation. Ultimately, if the youth decides to plead guilty to anything, or if they're found guilty at trial of any kind of crime, the court gets a report from me, and that report basically is a summary of who the youth is, any treatment needs, any history regarding school, drugs and alcohol. Basically, it gives a summary of who you are to the court.
I think parents should be present when the child goes to see their probation officer.
I had a good relationship with my son's PO, and she was very, very helpful, very helpful. So I say my understanding came from her.
If the judge orders the youth onto probation, the youth will receive a different juvenile probation counselor. The JPC is responsible for working with the youth and the parents to encourage the youth to successfully complete all of the conditions given to them by the judge. The JPC will usually meet with the youth at least once a month, although this can vary, to go over their progress.
Once a person is put on probation, then the case is transferred to a supervision worker. I'm an intake probation counselor. I handle the cases all the way from the arraignment through disposition or sentencing. Once the disposition has happened, then I transfer the case to a supervision worker. Usually that's done within 3 days of disposition.